Good morning everyone. This is Kamikawa Kaolin. Koreans lie. Chinese people were still better, is the word of an old lady who lived on the pre-war peninsula. Even now, 55 years after the conclusion of the Japan-Korea Treaty, South Korea has created a convenient history and continues to insult Japan. Yes, they haven't changed anything. Every time Korea is annexed, forcibly mobilize Koreans to exploit the labor force. He violated human rights, slaughtered Koreans, and made comfort women sex slaves. The so-called victim business, which claims to apologize and seek compensation, ignoring international treaties, it continues to develop even 75 years after the war. In South Korea, there was a parliamentary election on April 15, 2020. In that election, the ruling party, Democratic Party of Korea, of the 300 seats, it occupied 177 seats, which is almost 60% of the majority, and seized control of parliament. The Democratic Party of Korea, of the parent and Moon Jae-in party is remarks that affirm or harmonize with Japan's colonial era and war. We are in the process of enacting a ban bill. I like Japan better than South Korea. I hate anti-Japanese education. Korea also developed during the colonial era. If you say something like that, you will be put in jail. It's a childish bill that makes you think, is it a bill made by a child? But it's a real event. On October 27th, the Democratic Party it has been revealed that bills such as the History Distortion Punishment Law will be passed by the Diet as a party policy. When the History Distortion Punishment Law is enacted, the History Distortion Prohibition Law, including the bill, will also be enacted. This bill was proposed by Democratic Party members in June this year. The bill states that, using newspapers, magazines, television, other publications or information and communications networks, admiring, justifying and supporting Japanese imperialism's invasion of national rights and colonial rule at exhibitions and rallies, take actions to deny or significantly reduce or downplay Japanese war crimes. Also, if you carry out the activities of an organization that defends Japanese colonial rule, you will be punished by imprisonment with work for not more than 7 years or a fine of not more than 50 million won. This is, for example, during the Japanese colonial era, there were economic developments such as the construction of railroads and Western-style buildings. You could be subject to criminal punishment just by saying that. Of course, the Japanese who have been naturalized in South Korea cannot escape. The 21st National Assembly, Bill No. 1, is now in fact that the Democratic Party of Japan is in control of the Diet as an absolute majority. The possibility of being established is not small. However, the History Distortion Prohibition Law is honor and punish North Korea for its nuclear weapons development and non-human rights rule. I can't find the content. However, South Korea has a national security law that was passed during the Syngman-rhee era. It stipulates that it will punish members of anti-state groups, that is, groups that honor North Korea. Originally, President Moon Jae-in and the Democratic Party this national security law is a bad law that limits freedom of expression. He insisted that it should be amended or abolished. That is, the law against North Korea respects freedom of expression. The bill against Japan does not apply to the freedom of expression guaranteed by the Korean Constitution. That's exactly what the constitutional violation, two tongues, and contradictory theories. There is no shame or hearing, and it is developing here as well. While this shouts for non-buying for Uniqlo, Japanese beer, and Japanese cars, Nintendo and PlayStation must be bought side by side from the morning. Selective non-buying. It is exactly the same contradictory act. President Moon and the Democratic Party 100 knowingly pursuing that freedom of selective expression is unconstitutional, it will be said. What is the difference from North Korea's worst dictatorship of Kim Jong-un, which eliminates the freedom of expression of the people? This is the true identity of Korea, which is exactly the same whole. In fact, President Moon Jae-in has been calling for a ban on this historical distortion in demonstration activities even before he took office. Lee Dong-won, a critic on the history of Japan-South Korea relations, said, "The content of this bill is ridiculous and I have to be deeply concerned." It states, the History Distortion Prohibition Bill can be immediately sentenced to imprisonment for more than one recidivism. allows you to file a complaint without the victim or bereaved family being charged. Special provisions have been newly established. In addition, the act of revealing false facts and damaging the honor of independent meritors, etc. Acts that insult independent meritors, etc. Acts of praising, inspiring, promoting, or harmonizing their claims in response to colonial advocacy groups, the punishment for is also greatly strengthened. And defamation or insulting crimes against independent meritors, etc. Even if there is no complaint or the victim does not specifically clarify his intention by allowing you to file a prosecution, it also contains a strong warning message to historical distortion forces. Representative Liang said, insisting on the North Korean military intervention theory of the May 18 democratization movement, since there have been cases of denying or ridiculing the existence of Japanese comfort women, there was a high public voice that stronger punishment was needed for these. I explained the background of the bill proposal. Then, this enactment is the pain of the victims and bereaved families who have been injured so far. I hope that it will heal as much as possible and contribute to national integration. Who is the nation that the current government and the ruling party are always talking about? Aside from how can we come up with the idea of creating a terrible law that violates the Constitution, that even children can understand? For the qualities of Korean parliamentarians and their basic understanding of history, I have to be deeply concerned. Moreover, if the law is passed, it will lead to the division of the people rather than the integration of the people. By extension, relations with Japan will no longer be on the road to ruin. In the first place, historical distortion is there is a correct history that all people should take in the same way, that is, official history. It means that this is distorted. This is a very arbitrary and dangerous setting. As we all know, history is a collection of public memories, as you can see from the expression, politics of memory. Public memory is not a collection of trivial facts, for the public good, or for the good of the public. It is an artificial product created by repeating composition and reconstruction. Therefore, trivial facts are impossible from the beginning. There is only an interpretation. And, of course, exaggeration and distortion act on this interpretation. It considers anyone's memory to be authentic memory, with respect to the past. Also, for the problem of how to store and spread it. It means that there is always room for specific groups or state powers to intervene. The core reason why Japan and South Korea repeat conflicts over historical issues is also the content of public memory that you want to memorize is different, and the method of creating and consuming this. In other words, there is a decisive difference in the method of accepting and recognizing history. And the way for Japan and South Korea to reach true reconciliation is above all, he escaped from the historical recognition centered on the history of one country and admitted that the public memories of each other were different. The difference lies in finding a common history that can be shared. Whether that is possible or not is aside. On the premise that, there is no obvious fact in history, citizens, mainly scholars, through various studies and discussions a collection of diverse facts that results from efforts to approach that fact. It is never possible for only one fact to become history. Therefore, consider only one history as official history. People and groups who insist on or incite a different history. This bill, which was based on the historical view of Representative Yang Hyang-ya and the people around him, to punish by law, it's wrong from the beginning. This is the same as the national textbook case that caused a sensation in Korean society during the Park Geun-hye administration. It is a violence of cognition and is extremely rude to the people of Japan and South Korea who desire true reconciliation. The historical debate that should be resolved through the debate of scholars and citizens, it should not be used by politics or cut by law. If the historical perception of a country is due to specific thoughts that look at history, this is often artificially created through education and dear. Nevertheless, through standardized history education, and even by law, it is said to control human thoughts. What I think is possible in a democratic state that guarantees freedom of expression is I have to say that it is an abnormal nation, an immature nation. This is cognitive violence, just one word. National textbooks and historical distortion prohibition laws are themselves all modern, barbaric thinking. It cannot be said that it has the appearance of a very modern nation. Fortunately, the attempt to produce a national textbook has been withdrawn. What will happen to the historical distortion prohibition law submitted to the Diet? Really, this government, a ridiculous perception of the history of Korean society, beyond resentment, the open mouth is not closed. Fortunately, I've heard that the public opinion of Korean society on the bill is not very good. But those who oppose agree with the purpose of the legislation. It is also abnormal to assume that the democracies of the world will never agree with the purpose of South Korea. If this bill is passed, we cannot expect any more from Korean society. There is no reason to go out with South Korea in the future. It is something that can be said. Koreans lie. Chinese people were still better, is the word of an old lady who lived on the pre-war peninsula. The Japanese, and people all over the world, should never forget this word. Don't be fooled by Korean lies. That's all.